Hello friends, welcome back to what is sure to be a very short reading wrap-up for February. For starters, I did mention in my February TBR video that I did have a lot going on this month. First of all, we're starting with a short month already. And then I had some travel that I had already previously scheduled in the month. I was traveling at the beginning of the month and then I was traveling at the end of the month. And I just felt like I had so much going on. In addition to that, we have started up our weekly women's Bible study on Friday nights. So Friday used to be like I would work from home and then I would film in the evenings so that I could edit and get something posted on the weekends. That's pretty much gone now. I am still working from home on Fridays for the time being. But now my, kind of like my Friday evenings are booked with something else. So I just feel like so much has been crammed into this already short month, and so that led to a little bit of slumpy reading, I guess. I only have 6 books to share with you, and I think in the time that I have been posting booktube content, I'm pretty sure that's the slowest month that I've had. I think the time before that, the slowest month that I had was like 8 books. So yeah, in the last, let's call it year and a half, this is the slowest month that I've had. And again, I've had a lot of other stuff going on. It's a short month already, so, whatever. But let's just go ahead and hop into it. Okay, so for starters, I only have 2 physical books to share with you, and these are actually the last 2 books that I read this month, but let's go ahead and just start at the end and work our way backward. So I finished in the last 3 days of the month. I, at like warp speed, worked, I don't know what I dropped. I worked my way through Razorblade Tears. This is by S.A. Cosby. This was phenomenal. This was so good. So in the story, we follow Ike and Buddy Lee. They are both 2 ex-cons, and Ike is a black man and Buddy Lee is like a good old boy, Southern white guy. And they're both ex-cons, and their sons were married to one another, and they both are very, just very, very bigoted at the beginning of the story. Buddy Lee, like, doesn't know any black men or any people of color that he didn't meet when he was in jail, and Ike kind of has, a bad, I don't even know how you say it, but like, he's just been through the system and treated poorly and, rough upbringing and the whole works. So, their sons meet, fall in love with one another, and end up getting married, and they are murdered, which is not a spoiler because that's literally at the beginning. That's like part of the whole story in the dust jacket, I think. And so their sons are murdered, and they take it upon themselves to solve the crime. Basically, they think that it is a hate crime, and the authorities really don't have much to go on, and they, like I said, kind of take matters into their own hands and just decide that whether it gets them both put back into prison or not, they are going to make things right for their sons, because they didn't exactly make their lives easy while they were here on Earth. So just a phenomenal read. Really, just a beautiful transition showing, you know, how hardened these guys were and how, you know, they were just very set in their ways and very opinionated and super old school, both of them. And you can just see the very subtle transitions in their thinking, in their acting, in their, you know, even their speech, what you know, what they say and what they will allow to be said around them and about their sons and so forth. So just a really beautiful story, very real, very raw, and sometimes graphic, but what I feel like is very, very true to life. So really, I would say this is probably my book of the month. Like, this was, I think, my favorite story that I read this month. And like I said, I literally just plowed through it in the last 3 days of the month. It's about 320-ish pages. So I read about 100 pages a day, and literally finished at like midnight on the 28th. So I really, really loved that book. The next physical book, or I guess the prior physical book that I read, is From Scratch, and this is by Tembi Locke. Now, here's why I'm so disappointed. I had mentioned that my book club that meets here in my town every month, we chose From Scratch for our February pick, and we were going to watch the Netflix show and then read the book and talk about, you know, all of that when we met for book club last week. I filmed an intro on my nice, you know, DSLR camera that I sit in front of all the time and film, and then I vlogged my experience of watching the show and reading the book. I had lots of opinions, and technology hates me. Because I was not able to get any of that footage off of my phone onto my computer so that I could edit and, you know, and actually post the video. So I was super frustrated. I've been telling my husband for months that I wanted a vlogging camera. And do I need a vlogging camera? No, I don't need one. But I feel like it's something that I want. And I haven't gotten one yet, but you know, he says, oh, you've got a vlogging camera, just use your phone. But my phone is always out of storage because I take 5 million pictures of my kid, and then, you know, whatever, like I post on Instagram all the time, and I've been doing a lot of reels lately, and so I never have enough storage on my phone. I don't like to film. It's a little bit cumbersome for me to film on my phone, and then actually getting it off of my phone and getting it onto the computer so I can edit. It's just a whole process, and it's way too much for me. So all that to say, I wasted a lot of time over the weekend trying every which way I knew how to get this footage off of my phone onto my computer. I upgraded my computer software. I deleted stuff on my phone. I just did everything. I had it plugged in. I tried to airdrop it. I tried everything. I could not get this footage off of my phone. So I bet you want to know what my thoughts were on the book. Here's what my thoughts were. We'll talk about the book first, and then we can talk about the Netflix special or show or whatever. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the book after a while. I didn't get into it right away, and right from the beginning, I didn't really enjoy, and I didn't really feel sympathetic or empathetic for our main protagonist. And I feel like that makes me a terrible person to say that, but I just had a hard time connecting with her. Yeah, so there you go. I did enjoy the story after a while, but the difference between the book and the Netflix show is that The book showed everything only from her perspective. And I understand this is her narrative, this is her interpretation of the story, and that's fine. But one thing that I enjoyed a little bit more about the Netflix show is that it showed, so the Netflix show starts with their meeting in Italy, and then it goes throughout their entire relationship, ending in, well, so they do end up getting married, and he dies from a very rare form of cancer. Again, not a spoiler, it's literally on the back of the book. So the Netflix show shows that, I would say like right about in the middle, and then the last few episodes, probably the last like 2 to 3 of the 8 episodes are kind of her dealing with everything after his death. And so, I enjoyed the Netflix show a little bit more because it showed like his struggle in it, his fight against, you know, as he was going through and battling the cancer, and it gave a little bit more of his dialogue and his voice to it. And then also once he had passed, it showed you know, like it gave some emphasis on the daughter that they had, and it, you know, kind of gave her a voice too. And so there wasn't a lot of that in the book. It was all simply from her perspective. And so I did enjoy seeing the different viewpoints in the Netflix show rather than just hearing everything from her point of view while I was reading the book. The other thing that I felt like the book, where I didn't love the book so much, let's just say it that way, is that the first almost 100 pages talk about their, like kind of building the foundation. It does start where we already know that he's passed away, but then it kind of flashes back, and the first 90 to 100 pages talks about the beginning of their relationship, and then the next almost 100 pages talks about her first summer in Italy after he has passed. And then, so that's basically the first half of the book. And then the next 100 and something pages, 160 I think, or 180 pages are the second summer and the third summer. And I just felt like at that point, she had, you know, kind of made peace with her mother-in-law, and they were building on this new relationship with the mother-in-law and our protagonist, and then her daughter, and they were kind of finding their way forward. And so there wasn't as much struggle, I guess. There wasn't as much conflict. And it really was just, to me, it seemed more anecdotal, the second summer and the third summer. So I really didn't feel like it needed to be an extra 160 to 180 pages. I really felt like maybe that portion of it, the second summer and the third summer, could have been an epilogue. You know, we could have kept this way closer to 300 pages. And I just felt like it was a little bit overkill having, you know, so much more of the book, really than I felt like needed to be explained. Like I said, once they kind of got through that first summer after his passing, and she and the mother-in-law kind of made peace and were moving forward, I basically lost interest. I read it, but it didn't do that much for me. So I gave this a 4-star on Goodreads, but honestly, I think it would be like a 3.75 star for me. And the Netflix show, I would say, was probably about a 4.5. So very seldom, you know, we love to say the book is always better. In this case, I don't really think that was the case. We have a visitor. I don't know if you can see him. Sit down, please. There he is. All right, sit, bub. Sit down. You gotta sit and listen quietly, okay? Okay. By the way, I did give Razorblade Tears 5 stars. I realized that I mentioned the star rating that I gave this one and not the star rating that I gave this one. So there we go. I did read a third physical book this month, but that was a book that I had checked out from the library right at the very end of January. I knew that my hold was coming up, and I think maybe I just hadn't picked it up or something like that. So I remember talking about it in my February TBR, and that is The Girl Who Drank the Moon. This is a middle grade fantasy, beautifully written book, very written like fantasy, but almost written, I would say almost lyrically, really, really well done. It won a Newbery Medal. I think it was back in 2017. So that's actually the prompt that I was using to fill for the 52 Book Club Challenge, was a Newbery Award, or Newbery Medal winner. And it was just beautiful. It's about a little girl who is abandoned in the woods. She is rescued by a witch, and instead of feeding her starlight, she feeds her moonlight. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. And moonlight, she talks about how moonlight is so many times stronger than starlight, and so she ends up becoming magical, and the witch, trying to protect her, kind of suppresses her magic, and eventually she will need to fight for the witch, to save the witch from the townspeople that live in the town where she was abandoned from. And it's, as I say, really beautifully done. I did give that one 5 stars as well. I enjoyed it very much, but this I read right at the beginning of the month, and this was another one that I kind of had a little bit of a hard time getting into. I do find that to be the case a lot when I'm reading a brand new fantasy, just, you know, because it takes you a little while to understand the world building and understand the characters, and, you know, there's oftentimes a made up language, and so it takes me a little while to really immerse myself into the world, you know, into a brand new fantasy world. But I did really, really enjoy this one as well. Next, I listened to 2 audiobooks this month, and the first one was called The Couple Next Door, and this is by Sherry. I think it's Sherry, it might be Shari LaPena, and I bought one of her books when it was a book of the month. I think it was last year, or it could have been in 21. I can't remember, but she's a little bit like twisty, and, you know, definitely a thriller writer. So the book opens with a couple, and they have been to attend a party at their neighbor's house. They live right next door, and the neighbors don't like children, so they have left their, I think she was like 7 months old, 6 or 7 months old. They've left their baby at their own home right next door to where the party is being held, and they go and check on her every 30 minutes, and they have the baby monitor with them, but they come home at the end of the night, which is like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and the baby has gone missing. So then it's, you know, it's a very twisty, turny. They're trying to figure out, you know, initially they think that it was just a random, you know, just a random kidnapping, but eventually they come to find that this was premeditated and it was all planned. And so then they have to get into, okay, who set this up, who all is involved. You know, they start looking at the neighbors, and they start looking at the parents themselves, and they start looking at all of their different associates and things like that. And so layer by layer, all of the different you know, kind of dysfunction of this couple sort of comes unraveled. And so it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Sometimes because it was an audiobook, sometimes I was listening to it and I'm going, oh my God, these people are crazy. You know, I mean, like, I have a kid and you think like, I couldn't just leave my kid and like go to a party, you know? I don't know. I personally could never do that. So anyway, this was another one that I really, really enjoyed. I did kind of figure out some of the twists part of the way through, although there was a good like little half twist at the end that was really, really entertaining and very creative. So I gave this one a 4-star. The next audiobook that I listened to last month was called Pieces of Her, and I did not realize that this was starting another series. So this is the Andrea Oliver series by Karen Slaughter, and this was book 1 in the series. And so I don't know what book 2 is like. To me, everything was wrapped up very nicely at the end of book 1, and like, we don't need to continue this story onto another volume. So I'm hopeful that we kind of take a turn and, you know, maybe Andrea goes and like solves another mystery or something like that. But in Pieces of Her, we are following Andrea. So Andrea Oliver, as the series is called, she is the daughter of Laura. And right at the beginning of the book, there's this huge, like, crazy tragedy that happens. And Laura, it's all out in public, like at the shopping mall, and Laura acts instinctively, and initially it looks like she kills a person. And so Andrea goes back to they go to the hospital, and she goes back to her house, and she's thinking like, how does my mom know how to do this? You know, she's a speech pathologist, and she's never done anything like this before, and how would she know this? And you know, she's like the mom that bakes cookies for the bake sale, and that, you know, that kind of a thing. And so she ends up having to flee her home, and her mother sends her across the state and she gives her a key to a storage unit, and inside the storage unit is a car that's registered in Canada. There is a ton of cash. There are pictures and documents and all these different things. And so Andrea is forced to kind of put the pieces together of who is her mother and who is this woman that she's been living with all of her life. And, you know, these two people cannot possibly be the same women. And so it's really entertaining. It is a wild ride. It literally takes you all over the country as she's driving around trying to meet with these different people who knew her mother from this past life, and you know, and just trying the whole time to figure out who she is, and eventually puts the pieces all together. And so this one was really entertaining. Like I said, I felt like the story really wrapped itself up by the end, and I was satisfied with that ending. So I think I gave this one like a 3.5 stars. The final book that I read this month is called Brooklyn Monroe Wants It All. And this was actually an ebook that I read on my Kindle. So I read 3 physical books, 2 audiobooks, and then 1 ebook this month. I may have already mentioned that. But this was the ebook that I read on my Kindle. Really cute story. We are following Brooklyn Monroe, who is, I think she's like 42. This like really hit home for me because I am an older mom. They literally called me geriatric when I went in. You know, basically if you're over 35 now, when you are pregnant, that's called a geriatric pregnancy, which is rude. But anyway, we're following Brooklyn, and she is 42, and she's super successful, runs this like really big, great company in New York City. And she's super successful in every way, except she can't keep a man, and she has decided that she really wants to have a family. And so the one man that she really loved, they broke up, I think like a year before or 15 months before or something like that. And she basically just can't get him out of her mind. And they have a chance meeting on the street one day. And she says, yeah, you know, I've decided that I'm going to have a baby. And so he says, oh, wow, okay, great. And he asks her out to dinner, and they end up at dinner, and then they go back to his place. And as they're, you know, like kind of getting hot and heavy, she says, wow, I'm really glad that you're so on board with this. You know, like I thought there was going to be some hesitation. And he goes, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? What am I on board with? And she says, you're on board with me having a baby. And he's like, right now? And so he backs way off. And, you know, as we find, he is still very much in love with her. She is still very much in love with him. And, you know, so they keep having these missteps where, so they break at that point. You know, he's like, I don't think we should follow through with this tonight. So she goes back to her home, and of course she's like so embarrassed, and you know, she works with her sister, they co-own the company, and she's going, oh my God, this is so stupid. Like, you know, like I've done such a stupid thing. And so she still can't get him off of her mind, and he can't get her off of his mind. And so they keep having, you know, they're like trying to be friends, but still really have feelings for one another, and they keep being put together in the same, you know, in the same settings. And so it is a really sweet story. There is a little bit of spice in there, but I would say the spice factor is like a 1.5 or a 2. So it's not completely bland, you know, it's not completely without spice, but it's not like super graphic either. It was just a really cute, sweet story. Very, very predictable, but you know, but a fun ride anyway, and also a fairly quick one as well. So I gave this one a 3 stars just because, like I said, it was pretty predictable, but still enjoyable nonetheless. So friends, that's everything I have to share with you today. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry if this video is like rambly or disjointed. My son kept coming in multiple times while I was trying to film. I'm exhausted, and I don't I'm run ragged, y'all. Anyway, so yeah, so let me know if you have read any of these books, what you thought of these books, and also I would love your recommendations for what I should read. My March TBR is already posted, and because it is Women's History Month this month, I am trying to read from all female authors, but leave me a recommendation that I can, you know, kind of take into another month. If it's a book of the month book, that would be even better, because I'm really trying to get through some of my book of the month books this year. Also, I can't remember who it was that had asked me a few months ago, like probably several months ago at this point. Someone had asked me to do, if I would show all of my book of the month library that I own, and I really want to do that. So I'm kind of moving things around here in my office. I know obviously all you can see right now is my couch, but I'm trying to move some, you know, move some things around and make a little bit more space in this office. So hopefully once I have that done, I need to like get a new bookshelf, because I've got just stacks of books sitting over here on my desk that have no home. So I need to get another bookshelf, and I need to, like I said, kind of rearrange some things and make some room. So once I have all of that done, I do plan to do that kind of bookshelf tour with all of my book of the month books. And then, yeah, and now that I know that I have to use this camera to do vlogs, hopefully I will be able to bring new vlogs to you as well. So like I said, leave me your recs for what I should read next, and check out my March TBR if you haven't already. I have all of my links down below. I've got my Goodreads there if you want to be my friend on Goodreads. I also have my Instagram, and then I have a referral code for book of the month, so you and I both get a little treat if you use my referral code for book of the month. And I also have my buy me a coffee link. So what that is, because I don't have any sponsored content on this channel, and obviously we know now that I'm gonna have to be buying some new equipment, so if you wanted to support me in any way, you could click on that link, or just go to buymeacoffee.com, and my username is Everyday Sarah J, and you could just look me up, and then you could make a little donation to me, and that would really help me out and help me to buy this new equipment that I'm going to have to foot the bill for. So thanks so much for watching. I certainly appreciate your love and support, and I'll talk to you really soon. Bye.